Did you know that your mind, yes, your mind is the most powerful tool that you can have in your toolbox? But how do you harness the power of your mind? Hi, my name is Ann McNeil, and you are listening to the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Autosuggestion Principle with Dr. David Banks. My name is Ann McNeil. I am the Master Wealth Builder, and I am very excited, but then I'm always excited though, to continue to discuss this principle with our co-hosts. And this principle today, we're sharing autosuggestion, which Napoleon Hill tells us it is the medium for influencing your subconscious mind. He also goes on to say that the term autosuggestion applies to all, all self-administered stimuli. And I would go even further to say all stimuli, whether it's self-administered or administered to us or through us by others, and even the ether. And so when you stop and think about the impact of this principle, uh, as we prepare to share our stories and our aha moments with you, talking with Dr. David Banks, I really want each of you to think about how do you harness the power of your mind? I was sharing before we started this podcast today and my own preparation, something that happened for me yesterday as we talk about autosuggestion, and I wanted to share it here with you. Napoleon Hill often talks about Emil Coué and the fact that he had this phrase he would use every day in every way, I am getting better and better. And he tells us that suggestion and autosuggestion really can impact our health, but also it can be wrongly used and misunderstood in a negative way because we say things about ourselves and also to others that oftentimes we don't realize the impact that those statements have. And on yesterday, I was preparing for our Think and Grow Rich Friday uh, accountability meeting, and I was rereading this principle, and I began to realize that when I was 13 years old, I started remembering when I was 13 years old, I forgot my Easter speech. Yes, I did. And for 10, almost 20 years, I was scarred by that. And I continued to say to myself subliminally and subconsciously, every time I had an opportunity to speak, I would say, I cannot speak because I cannot memorize my speech and I cannot remember. And I did not realize until reading these principles, this principle in particular, the negative impact that that had on me. But guess what? The power of harnessing your own mind, you have the power to reverse that. So we want to welcome all of you here today. And I want to welcome my co-host because today we're going to delve into this principle. And we're asking you to please remember to subscribe to this YouTube, comment, like, and share the podcast, but also invite your friends to share with you. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. So, yes, I could do this podcast all by myself, but I'm not here by myself. So, let me welcome our co host. First, Galen Bingham. Good morning, Galen. And
Good
then Dr.
morning. Good morning. It's great to be back. I've missed you guys. And this is an incredibly important chapter, incredibly important principle. And I got a question for you, Anne. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been talking with your friends about, hey, I need to go pick up this thing. I need to go get this book, or I need to go buy this thing, and you've just been talking to your friends about it, and then you go to your phone and you go to Google, and then there's an advertisement for that thing, and there's an Amazon link to that book that you've been talking about. Have you ever said the phrase, "I think my phone is listening"?
I know my phone is listening.
I know my phone is listening. Well, the same is true for your subconscious mind. The infinite is always listening to what you're saying. because the universe wants to be ready to deliver against whatever it is that you say that you want. And here's the thing, the universe doesn't know whether you're joking or whether you're actually literally giving it a command. It's just listening. So if you're saying, hey, I want to have $1 million. I want to have $1 million so that I can do this. And boy, if I had $1 million, I could really do this other thing. The universe is going to be on its way preparing to make that $1 million a reality. But if you say just in passing, I can't speak. I can't speak. I always forget my lines. I always forget what I want to say. I'm always uncomfortable in front of audiences. The universe is preparing evidence to prove to you you're right. You can't speak. You're always nervous in front of audience, and the universe probably is even more powerful than our phones. It's actually making a reality those things that you say. My name is Galen Bingham. I'm the leadership strategist, and I can't wait to get into this conversation to not only talk more about the principle of auto suggestion, but to talk to Dr. David Banks. This dude is absolutely brilliant on so many different levels. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this principle.
All right, thank you. Yes, Dr. Peter James, welcome again.
Excited to be here this morning. Excited to dive on into this topic. Excited for our phenomenal guest that we have here today. But I'm with you there, Galen. We allow and digest so much that we don't even realize. We turn on the radio, we watch social media, we watch the news, we stream shows. We sometimes even just have stuff on in the background. I mean, as you mentioned, we don't think we're listening, but our minds are capturing so much. But I wonder, especially after today's show, if we can begin to be more intentional about what we are digesting, about what's playing in the background, so that it benefits us, our subconscious, but ultimately our goals and our objectives as we continue to move forward. I'm excited to be here. My name is Dr. Peter A. James. And this is going to be a phenomenal show today, Ann McNeil. I don't even know where to start, but I know how we're going to finish, though.
All right, well, let all of us welcome to the show our special guest and our friend, and that is none other than Dr. David Banks. Come on to the studio. Dr. David Banks is president of Noble Success Strategic Group, LLC. And he is impacting, yes, we're all witness. He is impacting nations, literally nations and organizations. He is a distinguished purpose discovery specialist, and I would call him an expert. With a wealth of experience, he holds certifications as a speaker, trainer, coach from John Maxwell, as well as being a certified professional coach, wholeness coach, success coach, accomplished author, and also one of our facilitators and supporters of the National Speakers Association, Black NSA. Dr. Banks, good morning this morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Miss Ann, Dr. Peter, Galen. Good morning to all of you. I'm excited as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Listen, we have all of us have known each other for quite a very long time. And I always like to ask every guest, what was your first introduction to this book?
My first introduction, I read this book in college. But I had to borrow. I didn't know the right words, Miss Ann, but I had to borrow your line. I read it in college, but only until probably 2018 when I met you and reread it, it started reading me. So that is, I really looked at it from a whole different perspective in 2018.
Wow. Well, we are going to go to a quick video because I really want to come back and have you go back into your story and bring us up to now, because a lot has happened. a lot has happened. And so I don't know how far you want to go back as we prep this video, but I'd like to have you, when we come back from listening to the 13 principles, I'd like to have you go back to maybe your childhood and bring us up to have you share with us your first memories, if you will, of this principle of autosuggestion. It might have been hopefully it was not similar to mine. You forgot your Easter speech, but
I got a story ready. I got a story ready.
Right. Because I think it's so very important that once we begin to understand and we can connect the dots, right? It is very impactful to understand how to move forward to impact the dots. So Galen is going to share with us these 13 principles, and we will be right back. We're going to ask everybody who's listening. We want to thank all of you for joining us. And we actually have Meta Wilson, Jay Daniel, Shannon, Charles Bright, Johnny Lloyd, Carla Hall, your buddies here, Wyman Wimbush, so many people. Please put your questions and comments in the chat. And please subscribe to the YouTube if you have not done so. But right now, we're going to listen to these 13 principles. Galen?
Yeah. So I've got my coaching mind hat on right now. So I'm going to challenge everyone, as you listen to this video, as you watch this video, I want you to think about some goal that you've accomplished, some life goal that you've accomplished, something that went incredibly well, and you were just amazed at how successful you were on the other end. And as you listen to these principles, I want you to consider, how did each of these principles come into play as you achieve this goal? Because one of the things I think you're going to notice is that these principles are natural. They're natural laws. We do this automatically. We do this without even thinking. And my question to you is, what if we did this on purpose rather than achieving success accidentally? So let's take a listen to these 13 principles, and we'll talk again on the other side.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the Mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles. All
right. Go ahead, Galen. I see you trying to say something.
No, I was just gonna check in with everyone. If they did the activity that I challenged them to do, if you put in the chat, if you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, let me know how these principles work in your life. If you are able to use these principles on purpose as opposed to accidentally, and that's a question I hope we can get to ask David. When have you used these principles to have success on purpose rather than having them come up accidentally? And we can all have success accidentally. I'm curious about, when have you used these principles to have success on purpose? But Ann, I'll turn this back over to you.
All right. Well, I want to share something from Emil Coué. We always read from Napoleon Hill. He talks about a quote. He says, "Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better." And he talks about, and this is, we're going to go to David, going back, if you will. Coué says that, it is a new sense that until now, this whole idea of suggestion, rather autosuggestion, is quite new. And in the new sense, that until now, it has been wrongly studied and in consequence, wrongly understood. It is old because it dates from the appearance of man on earth. In fact, autosuggestion is an instrument that we possess at birth. And in this instrument, or rather in this force, resides a marvelous and incalculable power, which according to circumstances produces the best or the worst results. Knowledge of this force is useful to each of us, but it is peculiarly indispensable to doctors, magistrates, lawyers, and those engaged in the work of education. And here we go. But knowing how to practice it consciously, and that's what we're going to talk about with David, it is possible in the first place to avoid provoking in others bad autosuggestions, which may have disastrous consequences, and secondly, consciously to provoke good ones, instead thus bringing physical health to the sick and moral health to the neurotic and the erring, the unconscious victims of anterior autosuggestions, and to guide into right path. So David, if you would take us back to your first memory, if you will, of this, may not have been called that, but this memorization and this self-talk and that, if you can take us back to your earliest memories, please.
Very much so. Well, it's truly a vivid memory. Everything started when I was in the sixth grade. When I was in the sixth grade, I'm the youngest of my siblings. I have an older brother and an older sister. And I wanted to do something to really kind of highlight myself in my father's eyes. My dad 6'6", over 300 pounds, very massive, very strict man. Didn't really share a lot of emotions. And so I wanted to do something to get his attention. So I tried out for the basketball team. Presently, I am 6'5", so everyone in my family is tall. So I tried out for the team and I made it. And I was so excited. I was so excited. I made the team. So I couldn't wait to get home. And I started planning in my mind as I was headed home, as my mom was bringing me home. I played in my mind, I'm going to tell my dad, Dad, I made the team. And then he was going to say, son, I'm so proud of you. You're going to be the next, Michael Jordan wasn't playing at that time, Magic Johnson. You're going to be the next Magic Johnson. So I played all of this in my mind. So when I got home, my dad worked a labor job. So he was already taking his evening nap. And I walked in the house and I touched him on his shoulder to wake him up. And then I thought this thing was going to play out exactly how I played it out in my mind. So I woke him up. He looked at me and I said, Dad, I made the basketball team, thinking that as soon as I said that, he was going to do his part. But unfortunately, he looked at me after I said, Dad, I made the basketball team. I was so excited. He looked at me and said, you will never succeed at anything. And he nodded back off to sleep. And I'm thinking, did he say what I thought he said? Thinking that maybe we should play this again. Maybe let me wake him up again. And maybe he didn't hear me. But something said, David, you heard what you heard. And that sentence, Miss Ann, you will never succeed. Somehow that word succeed just kind of amplified. You will never succeed at anything. That played in my mind because he said it, and then that was consciously when he said it. But then when I started repeating it, I will never succeed at anything. I will never succeed at anything. That's when it got lodged in my subconscious, and it affected everything. It affected everything. Mm-hmm. So this book, Autosuggestion, played a huge part because I'll speed it up. In college, I read the book by Dr. Miles Monroe that says, In Pursuit of Purpose. Because I live my life, every decision. Here's the thing, what happens when it got into my subconscious. Anything that I was involved in or any decisions, it all had to play back through, you would never succeed. I remember in high school, the teachers came, they had a meeting with me, and they said, David, we see you're doing great in your grades and everything. We want to promote you to the, the talented group. And I said, no. I said, that's great, but I don't want to set myself up. So I denied it. I said, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. So only until college, when I read the book In Pursuit of Purpose, and that whole focus of that book just really helped me that, David, your purpose was formed in you in your mother's womb, even before you ever had a past. And guys, that right there, that changed everything. Instead of me focusing on my past and what my dad said, I spent time now focusing on my purpose. And then in 2000, when I discovered my purpose, it just really started changing everything. So the mind is an awesome thing, but the autosuggestion, being able to go back and change and interrupt, I would say that, interrupt that old recording, you will never succeed at anything. So all the listeners, maybe you've had someone to speak something negative over you and it's end up lodging into your subconscious. And I blame me because, like I said, my dad said it and that hit me consciously. But when I started saying it, that's when it started lodging into my subconscious. So can't blame him. I end up having to blame myself because I took what he said and I start ending up believing it. So the autosuggestion really helped me to realize that I have the power to interrupt those old negative recordings. And that has helped me tremendously.
Well, I'm going to go to Dr. Peter James because I see him rocking in his seat, and he's not sitting in a rocker. Peter.
You know, Dr. David, I truly appreciate the story. I appreciate the reflection. I appreciate the tie-in even to this auto-suggestion chapter. And what it initially makes me think of is that almost all of us in some form or capacity have heard some message when we were younger that resonated, and we carry, it could be from your sister, it could be from your aunt, uncle, it could be from teachers. Hear those stories a lot of times too. People who don't even know us that have resonated and stuck with us for decades. And, you know, in this chapter of autosuggestion, it starts out by saying it is the term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli. And what I'm hearing you say is you became intentional. Go into a little bit deeper into that, if you could, to demonstrate what it looks like maybe for your career, for your business, and how you are utilizing this principle to be the success that you are, my friend.
Excellent. Well, in 2000, when I discovered my purpose, I developed a tool to help a person discover their purpose. My purpose is to impact and empower people to, interesting enough, to succeed in their personal and professional life in order for them to be productive and fulfilled. So instead of me rehearsing what my dad said, you will never succeed at anything, instead of me rehearsing that, I just started intentionally saying my purpose every single day. David, your purpose is to empower and impact to succeed. Now, I must tell you, when I first start saying it, guys, my mind was kind of like, oh, this does not sound right, because it was so familiar with the old one. But I had to keep saying it. So I know sometimes when you say it, you may think, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Well, I'm not doing it to feel it. I'm doing it to get it registered back in my subconscious. So I started saying my purpose every single day. I started saying it to my purpose every day until it was almost like something just started to click that, yeah, wait a minute. I am designed to impact and empower people to succeed in their personal professional life in order for them to be productive and fulfilled. And guys, when that thing just settled inside of me, man, it just, now when I start looking at opportunities, I'm so excited. I'm doing this today because yesterday, March 1st, 2024, celebrated 1 year in my business, Noble Success. And so I remember last February 28th, when I decided that I'm going to start my business March 1st of 2023. It's amazing how some of that old record, you know, that old recording tried to come up. But since I'm consistent, even though it tried to creep up, man, my mind is totally purpose-centered. Even though it tried, but even though it tried, it wasn't able, and it didn't have the power to stop me from not doing what I decided to do.
You know, Dr. David, really quick before I pass it over to Galen, one thing that resonated with me, what you just said there, was no matter how it feels.
That's right. That's right.
Continue to be repetitive with those messages, with that phrase, in order for it to impact who you are, but also to your future. And sometimes for many of us, we do so much on how we feel. Right. And what I'm hearing from you is that you had to overcome that. How was even that to a certain extent?
Oh man, definitely as a counselor, everybody in my office, everything is talking about, well, Dr. Banks, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I had to really help people. And years ago, I had to help myself to understand feelings are only there for expression. But I think so many times we've been conditioned to think, let me feel something and then I'll do it. And see, that's not how you were originally designed. You were originally designed, you have to make a decision first, then your feelings line up with your decision. And I think so many people end up trying to do it the other way. Well, let me feel it and then I'll do it. Now, no. And I think reading and being a part, reading through Napoleon Hill's book, no, you don't wait till you feel and then do. No, you got to just make a decision and your feelings will come with whatever decision you make. And understanding that revelation has changed everything.
Love it. Galen.
Yeah.
Passing the baton to you, man.
So, Dr. Banks, the more I listen to you, the more that I see nuggets coming from other philosophies and synthesizing into this one conversation. And the phrase that comes to my mind right now is this phrase, walk by faith, not by sight. And we have a tendency to want to describe sight. We want to describe what we see. And what we see is currently we don't have. And the more we describe we don't have, which is what we see, we're making that more real, as opposed to describing what we want, which is faith.
Very nice.
Describe this is what it looks like when I have, and I have this already. How hard is it to convince, to persuade, to suggest to people, yeah, I know what you see, but spend more time describing the faith that you want to have, because that's where the power comes in.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, I always take people back to the principle that I learned from the Bible. In Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So that's what he saw in his mind. Because in Genesis 1:2, it says that the earth was formless, void, and dark. That is what he saw. But in order to activate faith, you don't continue to speak what you presently see. You speak what you believe that you want to see. So here in the very first chapter in the Bible, God saw that the earth was formless, void, and dark. But in verse 3, he said, let there be light. He didn't say, oh my goodness, the earth is formless, void, and dark. Oh my God, the earth is formless, void, and dark. No, he didn't say what he presently saw. He said what he expected and believed that he wanted to see.
Say it.
If you can't put an amen in the chat after that, I don't know what's going on.
So that's what I started understanding. Hey, David, you don't continue to speak. I always say, be aware of what you see, because I don't want people to be in denial. All right. Just be aware of what you see, but you don't have to continue to say what you presently see. And I think the formula, because the formula, you're basically creating what you want to see. And that's why the formula is such a powerful thing, because you hear so many people saying, but I have the fear of the unknown. I have the fear of the unknown. And I say, well, if you have the fear of the unknown, why don't you create the unknown? Just create it. And that's the power of your imagination, is to create what you want to see. And that's what I did. I created, instead of the fear of the unknown. David, you're getting ready to start your business and you have no clients, but you feel like this is what God is calling you to do. I decided, well, hey, instead of yielding to the fear of the unknown, spend some time and create it. I love Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey said, everything is created twice. So before you see it in the natural, imagination. We have this awesome tool in our mind called the imagination, but sadly, so many people is full of cobwebs. Why? Because we don't use it.
Wow.
We use it.
I want to turn this back over to Ann, but again, just another thought that you brought to my mind is, we have this projection about the future, and that's what the fear is. The fear is a negative projection about the future. Well, the reality is we don't know what's going to happen in the future, so we're making this stuff up. Right. And if we're making this stuff up anyway, we might as well make up something that's actually going to help us create something positive, create what we want, rather than making something up that is going to hamper us and hinder us.
Exactly.
So
Or assuming that it has to be negative. It doesn't have to be negative.
we're making this stuff up anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Ms. Ann, back to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to something and share something from Coy. You know, he, and for those of you who have read the book, he's the person that said the quote, "Every day and every way I get better and better." Now, going back to Dr. Banks' comment, it does not have to be true to become true, right? Then he tells us that in order to understand properly this phenomenon of self-suggestion, and just suggestion, period, he says, or to speak more correctly, autosuggestion, it is necessary to know that two absolute distinct selves exist within each of us. I want y'all to think about that for a second. He says both of these selves are intelligent, but while one is conscious, the other one is unconscious. And for this reason, existence of the latter generally escapes notice. Just think about, we talk about here, Think and Grow Rich, autosuggestion. There are two selves. One part of the book, Napoleon talks about the other self, when he discovered his other self, right? So we talk about a conscious self. Seldom do we talk about a conscious and the unconscious self. And then he says, however, it is easy to prove its existence if one merely takes trouble to examine certain phenomena and to reflect a few moments upon them. And then he gives some examples. I'm not going to go into those, but I do want to come back to you, David, and have you share with us a turning point in your life or in your business when you truly, truly, truly became aware of the power of this principle. Can you share an example?
I think during, like I said, I made my decision last year to start my business. But March 1st is when I actually started my business. But February 1st is when I started creating it in my mind. So I spent last February, the 28 days, start creating what did I want? As I did the formula, this is how much money I wanted. This is what I'm going to do to get it. So I started developing that February 1st. So when March 1st came, as you beautifully said, my other self says, all right, let's get started. Let's get started. And then when I started seeing, and I do affirmations, affirmation. And when the first time I said, well, I'm gonna start my business, I want 10,000 a month. And when I start seeing at the end of the month, how much money? Oh, 10,000, 11,000. And then I was like, ooh, okay, let me hold myself. This is working. Then I said, let's go to 15,000 a month. Then all of a sudden, this is really working. It's amazing when you think it in your mind, and then when you see it in your checking account, you're like, wow, this thing is working.
But let's go back now. Let's make sure everybody goes back to the book, because you keep talking about the formulas, a number of different formulas. And one of the formulas is on page 28. How much do it, what, by when? The affirmation recited twice a day. Let's make sure, for those of you who may be here for the very first time, in the book is, I call it I call it the 6-point business plan. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but Napoleon Hill gives us 6 steps. So when Dr. Banks is talking about the formula, there's a lot of different formulas, but like he said, how much do you want?
That's right.
What date do you want it by? What are you going to do to get it? But you have got to have a plan of action and work that plan. So you can sit here and see him saying that, but another podcast would talk about all of the things that he had to go through up and down and on the phone every day. There's so many things we could share, and it's already 8:42. So there are a lot of people in the chat that's on YouTube. So we do want to thank you, Johnny Wyman, Charles Bright, everybody. If you have a question, just put it in the chat and we will take your question. But I do want to come back and go to our annual meeting, because I believe that in all the years that we've known you, but I want to talk about 2 things. Before I talk about the annual meeting, I want to have you share your experience with Black NSA, because our Black NSA will start in a couple of weeks, the $1 Million Mastermind. And I think that you attended maybe 2, 3, I'm not sure how many, maybe 4.
That's right. That's right.
Can you share with us the impact and why anybody who's listening should go? And we'll put that link in the chat. Johnny, somebody can help me find that link for Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind. Galen, Peter, let's put that in the chat on YouTube, because it's open to everybody. It doesn't matter what creed, color, gender, whatever you are. But can you share with us your experience with that and how it may have helped you make that bridge between being an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, leaving your job?
Oh, excellent. Excellent. So many times when you start living out these principles, when I first started, reading Miles Monroe's book, In Pursuit of Purpose, Stephen Covey, Think and Grow Rich, when I was reading that, I didn't have a lot of people reading those books and thinking like that. And I think being a part of Black NSA, being a part of the International Mastermind, I started getting around like-minded people. Before I started sharing these principles, and they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Hey, I'm just trying to get paid every day, So it was tough trying to talk about all these things when people didn't even really get into this. But being a part of Black NSA, I was around like-minded people that when I said, hey, this is how much money I wanted to make, and they didn't look at me like, how are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that? Or I want to start my business. Why do you want to do that? I didn't have that. I had people like, wow, okay, that's great. So being a part of Black NSA and being a part of the mastermind, you're around like-minded people that they think the same way. And that was so encouraging, because I'm thinking, I need some people, because sometimes when you just do it alone, you can really question some things. But when you're around like-minded people, that's going to hold you accountable and think like you and think even better, or even greater. You think, hey, I want to do this. And then I know in my mastermind group, I came and said, I want to make this a month. And they looking at me like, serious? You can do better than that. So it encouraged me to even think even bigger. So yes, Black NSA is an excellent avenue, a vehicle for like-minded people.
All right. Now, so after you worked with us in Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind, and you got the self-confidence going, you got the imagination going, you got the business going, and then you came in January to our annual meeting. Can you share with our listeners your experience with that annual meeting?
Oh man, that was, because the the mastermind, Black Mastermind, all of that is through Zoom like we have now. But in January, you get to really, I gave Miss Ann a hug. I gave Galen a hug, I gave Peter a hug. Now you have people that you can sit with and talk with. And I just think that I think everybody needs to be a part of this, because and we always want to make sure that it's not this conference feel to it where you just sit and just listen. No, you got to engage. I like that. I've been to conferences, and this is not a conference, but this is a time where we sit and we mingle and engage with other people. How are you doing? How are you doing on your life assessment? So is definitely sometime in conference you leave all hype and excited, but in this one you leave challenge. You leave challenge. I got work to do. I got some work to do, because when I come back next year, some of these no's on my assessment, I need to really make them yes. And what I have done, I went in January, and what I have done every last day of every month in this year, I'm going back and reviewing. So I just did it this past Thursday, and Miss Ann, it's taking it to a whole nother level. Because every month I set aside some time and just go back and look at my assessment, and then just kind of check. All right, this is what I need to do with my health. This is what I need to do with my finances. And Miss Ann, it's nice. It's nice.
Thank you so much, David. I want to let everybody know what we're sharing is the International Mastermind Association annual meeting is January 3rd and 4th. You can go to internationalmasterminders.com to get the details. And we'll put that link in the chat also. But we do have a guest that's joining us, Vivian Mendez, in the studio. So Vivian, we really want to thank you for clicking that link and joining us. Please remember to go to YouTube and subscribe, Vivian, and all of you who are listening live on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. We're going to start wrapping up and landing this plane. And David, we have not scratched the surface yet, as you already know, because you still have to share so many things about what you're actually doing for those individuals who want to work with you. So if you would go ahead and do that now. If someone would like to work with you or have you as a coach or go to your website, can you share that? And then we're going to go around to Galen and Peter. And I don't know what the time went. It just flew. So
I tell you, that's about time. So yes, if you would like, I work with organizations, I work with CEOs, I work with individuals to really help them to be purpose-centered, to helping them to develop a plan to deal with any gaps and pain points, and also really help them to accelerate their profits. So you can go to my website, noblebusinesssuccess.com, and you can, as you can see, access free training. There's a calendar on there. You can set up a time with me. So I would love for you, I would love to work with you and really help you to really start developing some great things, not only in your personal life, but also in your professional life as well. So noblebusinesssuccess.com.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Awesome. Let's put that in the chat. So Galen, if you would like to go first, and then Dr. James.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been a great conversation, and I just really appreciate how Dr. Banks, how you've highlighted the importance of staying focused on what you want. When you stay focused, there seems to be something magical about focus and hard work. I like the way Kobe Bryant explained it. He said, I've learned the secret to success. The secret to success is focus and hard work. That's it. That's how you achieve success. And you certainly highlighted that today. I just really appreciate the energy with which you've highlighted that in your own life, and you do that for the lives of your clients as well. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. There are just so many ways you can get a hold of me on social media. But the most fun way to get a hold of me is by checking out the podcast Whiskey, jazz and leadership. We talk to leaders literally all over the world about how you create effective leadership, regardless of the walk of life that you're in. I've been honored to have Ms. Ann on the podcast. Dr. Peter's been on the podcast a couple of times, and Dr. David Banks, his episode is coming up here shortly. But yeah, so we're having fun. I double dog dare you to try us on any podcast platform at least once. I guarantee you're going to learn something that's going to help you be a more effective leader. Back to you, Dr. Peter.
Wow. I don't even know where to start, actually. Thanks, Galen. But Dr. Banks, thank you so much for your insight. Thank you so much for your stories, because I think this is what I was thinking. I was thinking, everything that you said here, especially on this show, that we know, we digest, but life, society gets us off track.
That's right. That's right.
Regularly. Having conversations with others, sometimes even family members, gets us off track. But it's important to surround yourself with like-minded individuals, masterminds, these individuals you're talking about, to bring us back to center. And it's important that we do that regularly in order to not get off track too much or too far. And many of us don't do that regularly, and we're all over the place sometimes. I refuse to be like that, which is why I keep coming back, which is why I keep talking to individuals like yourself, which is why I keep surrounding myself with individuals who I know are on the same trajectory, but also can speak volumes, positivity, challenging me on a regular basis as well. And I would definitely thank you for that today there, Dr. Banks, and continue to do great work, especially with your business. And listen, I put it in the internal chat here. We need a part 2. Very, very soon. Hopefully you'll be willing to come back in the very near future.
I would love to.
And really participate in what we got going on here for sure. Hey folks, my name is Dr. Peter A. James. I'm so excited to be with you all this morning and every Saturday morning at the same time. Same channel. You can find me at shiftyourmindset.com, or especially on LinkedIn at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAjames. Got something brewing. Actually, Galen Bingham and I have something brewing very soon that is getting ready to get kicked off in April. And again, if you all are thinking about what surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals needs to look like, number one, but also number two, if you're ready to stop procrastinating and get to your next level sooner rather than later, and you want someone to hold you accountable, please check out this hot seat coaching program. Now, really quickly about this, weekly, Galen Bingham puts me on the hot seat, and it's uncomfortable, and my business is blossoming. I wonder what it could look like for those of you who are listening or watching right now as well. So I challenge you, as he would say, double dog dare you to dive on in there. Ann McNeil, this has been more than special.
Listen, part two is coming. David, I like to always ask our guests, what's 2 questions, and then we're going to wrap up. 2 questions. What is your favorite book? That's number 1, and why? But also your favorite platform and why?
Very nice. I enjoy reading. But I really have to say the In Pursuit of Purpose by Dr. Miles Monroe. And I think the reason why is because I read it at a crucial time in my life. When I was dealing with the growing up and that you will never succeed, it really got to the point where, I didn't really think about suicide, but I could see that if I didn't make a change, those thoughts would be coming. And I think the In Pursuit of Purpose helped me tremendously. I think I read it at the right time, and it has forever changed my life. The platform, I think for me, the best platform for me, I love, speaking to groups, really taking some time to really share with them and also ask questions. I think so many times I like settings where people can ask questions, because I always want, wherever I am, I want people to leave that setting and say, wow, Dr. Banks answered something that I was dealing with. So I really like those venues where I'm able to speak and where they have some Q&A, where whatever they're dealing with, and they are able to answer, ask the question, and I can give something or insight to help them better their lives.
So your book is In Pursuit of Purpose, which I read many years ago by Dr. Monroe, and you're absolutely right. Awesome book. And then your platform is the stage. I love it, love it. All right, everybody. Well, my name is Ann McNeil, and yes, I am the Master Wealth Builder. And I promised myself that every week I'm gonna promote, self-promotion, yes, my book, which is called The McNeil Factor: How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group. The McNeil Factor: How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group. And I think that going back to this autosuggestion, self-suggestion, and what we say to ourselves, and the impact that what we say have not just on ourselves, but others, especially those around us, children. David shared his story about his father, and his father probably never realized that that one statement impacted his son more than anything else.
Very much so.
Never realized. And so the question becomes, as we prepare to close, what are we saying to our children, our grandchildren, our coworkers? But equally important, what are we saying to ourselves? Dr. Banks talked about the formula. I want to challenge each of you, as you read this book, like he opened, allow the book to read you. And I'll just share, for me, it was the 6 steps to riches. Step number 1, how much money do you want? Step number 2, what are you going to do to get the money? Step number 3, by what date do you want the money by? Step number 4, if you're interested in 4, 5, and 6, you can text me at 59925. I put it in the chat on YouTube, and I will send you back those 6 steps, 59925. Because I think that it's critically important, whether it's your business or your personal life, that you have a formula, you have a plan, you have a process that you can use, but also accountability. And so as we wrap up, I want to just continue to remind all of you, the way we started, I asked this question, and it's a part of what David shares. And the question is, did you know, this is the question, did you know that your mind is the most powerful tool that you can harness? But the question becomes, how do you harness that power? And one way to do that is to continue, as we wrap up, continue to think and grow richer. And so with that, we will see all of you next Saturday right here, as we bring back another phenomenal guest. And Dr. Banks, we're gonna really need you to come back and do a part 2. So we'll get on your schedule. And
Very nice.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're interested in being a part of the podcast, you can reach out to us, 59925, and you can put in the chat podcast, and we'll follow back up with you to go through that interview process. And until then, remember, as we wrap up and as we close, continue to think and grow richer. Thank you.